I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus, I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus, I was evil. I never shook, baby.
Sorry, my cat just like, of course, the clockwork just knocked over the microphone.
I think we've made it as podcasters now that we have some like B-roll, like behind the scenes, like, hold on, is the camera working? Yeah, let me try this again.
Remember how when we first started, we would have mic issues, like the first 20 episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Look at how far we've come.
Yeah. Okay. That's enough fun for this episode.
Yeah, this is dead.
We're gonna get down and dirty and bondage and spanky because this is so. Is this why you're such a freak? Because you went to the school?
Yeah, to this private, small Jesuit university.
It's always the small private Jesuit universities. At least the ones you least suspect of being the freaks. I want to add some context to what we're talking about.
No, I'd rather keep the audience in the dark. No. So yeah, this story popped up. This woman named Naomi Epps, she was going to graduate from Santa Clara University, which is my alma mater, is where I graduated from. And I'm glad. So I graduated in 2011. So I'm glad that I got out of there before all this crit crap really took over. I never really checked in since then, but I was always kind of like, is it because it's so fucking small and most people haven't heard of it? Like, is it pretty insulated from a lot of stuff? And apparently no.
Do you know who an alumnus is of your school?
The woman, or do I?
No, like someone pretty popular in your state, pretty famous. Your governor?
Schwarzenegger?
No, Gavin
Newsom.
Newsom.
He went to Santa Clara University?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just looked because I just typed in Santa Clara University and to get this article, and it's like notable alumni, and he was there. And he went
shit.
There.
Oh God. Ugh.
So
connecting the dots now. Yeah, I know it's and another thing too about this too. Well, I'll get into the story more, and then I'll bring, because I have another connection to this story, a small connection, but anyway. So Naomi Epps, she wrote an article that was published in the Wall Street Journal. And it is called Santa Clara University's Crazy Idea of Human Sexuality. To become a therapist, I'm expected to watch bondage videos and submit a sexual autobiography.
Well, I mean, what did she expect? Like, isn't that why you become a therapist, to watch porn in class?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny because I was friends when I was in college. Going to school there, I was friends with a girl who was studying psychology, I think. And she did take a human psychology, human sexuality class. And the one thing that did kind of jump out at me when she brought this up, she's like, yeah, so I did have to talk to my parents. I had to interview my parents about sex, about so how long did you guys date before you had sex for the first time with each other? How long? So there was it did kind of require her apparently to have kind of that type of intimate conversation with her parents. Yeah. Yeah, that's not something I would ever want to ask anybody's parents about. So even then, it's kind of making me rethink, was that shit going on? Was
I think the seeds. So I think a lot of that crazy shit was in the 60s, 70s. I think a lot of it faded out in the 80s, 90s, 2000. It was still obviously very liberal overall, and this is the vast majority of campuses. But even I think is it Jonathan Haidt or who's the head of the FIRE? I always forget his name.
Oh yeah, I forgot it. But they co-wrote The Coddling of the American Mind together.
Yeah, he said it's right around 2014, 15 this, and which is like you graduated 2011, I graduated 2013. Like I don't remember that. I remember there was obviously being a liberal slant in school, but I don't remember any activism stuff. I don't remember any crazy shit. Like it was so tame, so like just kind of normal. I even had like a conservative professor who I still engage with on Twitter, and he wrote a book that I read. Like he wasn't, talking about the Republican Party all the time, but he's like an open conservative.
Right.
But now like a lot of the crazy, and we see that like it wasn't beaten back, like it wasn't utterly defeated, like I think a lot of people believe it was with Trump's election and the backlash to it in so many ways, not just elections but in marketing and even it's June, it's Pride, like it's way less than it was last year, 2 years, 3 years ago. A lot less corporate sponsors. I think I've heard from people in New York and in other parts. I don't know. You live in a big city in LA. When you guys aren't not burning shit down, I just think that the numbers are down. Like but that being said, there is still this, because this is new. Like this just happened, right? Like this article I think came out in May,
June 6th.
Oh, it came so even more recently. So it came out like last week, 2 weeks ago. I mean, so it's still very much alive and well. And again, it's not even, and we're going to get into this, it's not even like watching porn that's kind of even making light of it. It's like really disturbing personal shit. Yeah. That's a requirement. So if you want to get back into it.
Yeah. I'm a graduate student in marriage and family therapy at Santa Clara University, a Jesuit institution. Recently, I walked out of class. Professor Changjane Wei had just played a video of a female influencer engaging in sexual bondage activity. When the lights came up, the professor smiled and asked if we wanted to try it ourselves. Maybe it was a crass joke to break the tension, but I didn't want to find out if a live demonstration was next.
I actually do think it's kind of funny.
It is funny.
I do think that's kind of, we just watch some like S&M stuff and you're like, all right, who's up? Like that's a joke I would make.
Yeah.
Why I'm not a professor. But other than that, no, this is disturbing.
Yeah. What began as a simple accommodation request in a required course called Human Sexuality turned into a case study in the reshaping of therapy training, not by science, but by critical theory, a worldview that filters human experience through left-wing assumptions about power, oppression, and identity, particularly regarding race, gender, and sexuality.
I like how gender's in quotes.
Yeah, exactly. The first time I enrolled in the course, students were assigned to read sadomasochistic erotica in a book called The Guide to Getting It On, featuring sexually explicit illustrations. We were told to write an 8 to 10 page comprehensive sexual autobiography, which could include early sexual memories, masturbation, current experiences, and future goals with an action plan. This is how I'm going to get laid. Here's my 10-step plan to get laid.
Yeah.
An action plan.
Why do we have to...
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Gives a shit about masturbation. That this is so gross.
Yeah,
like
it's super intrusive.
Yeah.
And one of the things. So a quick aside about that. Are you familiar with Jeffrey Miller? He's kind of a heterodox professor guy. He's done some few podcasts, some podcast interviews.
I mean, maybe, but no, it doesn't ring a bell.
Well, anyway, so he's an evolutionary biologist or psychologist.
They're always getting in trouble.
I know, yeah. Very heterodox guy. Pretty interesting. I've listened to him on some various podcasts. And I think a big part, if not like the primary part of his studies, is sexuality. And so Naomi Epps, she I can't find the exact tweet, but she summarized that part a little bit of like how this course was pressuring students to give, the sexual autobiography. And then he said, I've been teaching human sexuality for, I can't remember, a good amount, like 20 to 30 years. And I've never once, out of all the colleges that I've taught at and all the colleges that I've taken classes at, never once has there ever been an assignment where we told students, tell us about your sexual history, about your sexual past, about your sexual, like that's just unbelievably gross.
So this is going to sound kind of dark. And like, I have no evidence for what I'm about to say, but there comes a point where there's so many, whether it's children, like teachers trying to get their children to open up about their sexuality and reading books that are sexually explicit.
Yes.
And this kind of like personal, like diaries about masturbation and sexual experience. There comes a point to me where I'm like, I feel like this is just a way for people to get off.
Yes.
Like it feels like it's just a way for like it's a kink that a bunch of people in these quote unquote positions of power, right? That can even be a teacher to a classroom.
Right.
That like that's what it's about, because I don't believe that there's science behind this. I don't believe this has any merit to becoming a psychologist or to helping children learn. Like it really just feels like it's more pernicious than that.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, whenever these stories pop up, that they're often presented as like a conservative boogeyman type of thing, but they're so fucking pervasive, and we've seen so many snapshots of curriculums.
There's
in
so
various
many
public
like
schools.
there's so many, and it's across. It's not just in like freakazoid enclaves, like uber progressive enclaves of uber progressive cities. Like no, this is across the board. This is in like Boise, Idaho, and Raleigh, North Carolina, and like just and even like suburbs, and but where you just get like a handful of progressive teachers or administrators who fly under the radar, and all of a sudden your kid comes home and they have genderqueer or something where it shows people giving blowjobs and your child's 11. This is crazy shit that I don't get why. Like it feels like they just push and push and push, and then when you're right, and then when there's the backlash, it's like, oh well, they're just a bunch of yokels. There's a bunch of like reactionary redneck conservative yokels, and it's like, no, this is fucking gross.
It's disturbing when it's happening at the college level, and it's even worse that it's happening in public schools. And by the way, I got the exchange here. So Naomi tweeted, "We had to write something down that we dislike about our genitals or breasts to have it read aloud to the class. Can someone give me a pedagogical justification for that? I asked Santa Clara University, but I haven't heard back." And then Jeffrey Miller responded, "I've taught human sexuality classes for 30 years that cover all kinds of topics and subcultures. I've never asked students to report such intimate personal details. It's totally wrong, intrusive, and creepy." And he's pretty, he's gotten into the weeds of sexuality in his podcast. So, but it's like he has his limits, it's
sick. And it's like, and again, like this is a relatively small. I did look it up. Your school is not as small as I thought it was. Like compared to my school, dude. Like my school has less than 2,000 students.
Oh wow.
Yours is like almost 10,000, which is small. It's like a Notre Dame size, but this isn't at Berkeley in some like feminist cross-sectional intersectionality class. Is like at a fucking Jesuits. Like what the hell? Like I always defended the Jesuits. They were like I went to a Jesuit law school, not undergrad, but law school. Like I admired a lot about them, but what are you doing? How is this even allowed? Like how is this even? You're so captured by what does this have to do with promoting like the Society of Jesus? And even if that can be a broad net, like the Jesuits were always called God's Marines. I thought that was cool. They were like helping the poor and going to places that were dangerous. Like what does getting your graduate students to talk about what they dislike about their genitals have to do with that?
Yeah. And it's funny because like when I was going to school there, the first time I heard the term social justice was there, but it was in a completely different context. It was in the context of like, hey, let's organize an effort to help people who suffered during Hurricane Katrina, or let's go to a war-torn. That was so when I got out of college and I started hearing social justice, I'm like, oh, social justice is a good thing. It's helping people who were
or even
unjust.
Something, or it can even be like more class-based. It can be more like, hey, this corporation's polluting this neighborhood that's very poor, and no one gives a fuck because they're so poor. Like that's good social justice. Like that's the kind of shit I'm for. And that is like broad support. Anyone, and like the Jesuits fighting that, not this bizarre sexual stuff. Like I'm sorry, I really do. I can't give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. I can't give people who let this shit go and can stop it the benefit of the doubt. Like it's sick.
No, absolutely. So continue on here. Guide to get on. Okay, here we go. We were told, which would include early sexual memories, all uploaded. So, early sexual memories, masturbation, current experiences, and future goals with an action plan, all uploaded to a third-party platform for grading. So, I mean, I forgot why I brought that up. Oh, I think because of the first sentence here. On ethical and religious grounds, I requested an alternative assignment. Carrie Watson, I mean, you would expect, that's why, like, you would expect, because it's a Jesuit university, that you'd be able to, like, have that sort of accommodation of, this is getting a little too outside of my beliefs. Can I?
Yeah. Like, God forbid, I attended this school thinking maybe like I would be protected from this shit because it's a Jesuit school. And again, you're going to see, of course, there's going to be the typical double standard here that I think will come up in the article about religion, but you can just keep reading.
On ethical and religious grounds, I requested an alternative assignment. Carrie Watson, the department chairman, denied my request, suggesting I change my plans and pursue a different type of license. In an email, she described the course as an inoculation of sorts, exposing you to content you might come across as a licensed therapist. She told me that if I did encounter such things in a professional setting, I could assuredly communicate that discomfort to clients and decline to work with them. So why did it have to be part of my training? I appealed to the dean, the provost, the Title IX office, the university president, and even campus ministry. I'm not sure who was more shocked, the priest reading the syllabus or me screen sharing sexually explicit videos and images with him. Jeez. The course is a graduation requirement, so I re-enrolled with Mr. Way, who is new to the school. I requested the same accommodation that Ms. Watson said Muslim women students had received to complete the course remotely. Mr. Way instead scheduled a Zoom meeting with me. He promised a professional tone and said sexual disclosure wouldn't be required. But in the classroom, among other things, he showed a how-to bondage video featuring a submissive wearing a gimp suit, a full-body garment designed to restrict movement, and played songs like WAP, WAP, Wet Ass Pussy, and I Beat My Meat, racial slurs included. A guest speaker, a male transgender psychologist, told us only trans women have pussies that can blow up the world, and described being sexually aroused. Or it's bleeped out, so maybe it's penises. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I read that penises, but to be honest, it could be both.
Yeah, and described being sexually aroused while looking in the mirror. One exercise included anonymously writing down something we disliked about our genitals or breasts to be read aloud in class by another student.
Sorry, going back to the penultimate sentence there about describe being sexually aroused while looking in the mirror, like, isn't that just autogynephilia and what like a ton of trans people have, and that's what this is actually about?
Yeah.
And not like that's, did no one catch that? Did no one, did the people not see that and go like, whoa, wait a minute, like this is a psychological disorder, like this is a thing that like I know like Rogan's talked about that, and it's fun, it's weird to me to see it so like brazen there. Yeah.
And it seems like one of those things where it's like, if you bring up autogynephilia as a rebuke of radical trans ideology, it seems like the activists would be like, no, that's overblown. That's not like a norm. That's another conservative boogeyman. But then here it is, just casually being taught in a Jesuit university.
Yeah, and again, and of course, here is where, of course, the Muslim students get the accommodation. Like, of course they do.
Yeah.
At the Catholic school, but this girl does not. This student does not, and like, why is that? Like, why do the Muslim students get the accommodation and not, whatever religion she is? But let's assume Christian, some sort of Christian.
Yeah.
She probably would have said otherwise. But it's just like, this whole ordeal is so typical.
Yeah.
Like, it's just box check after box check of like progressive bullshit.
Yeah.
Like every single one, from the crazy sexual sharing, the crass music being played, the Muslim students get the accommodation, just every single thing. It's like, this feels like something like I would have written to satirize like one of these issues, like one of these situations. But of course, like life, like we are beyond satire at this point, because like this shit is very real.
It feels like an article from the Babylon Bee.
Yes, exactly. It feels like an article from the Babylon Bee. Yeah, like you go say like Muslim students get accommodation, and like white Christian girl has to talk about her genitals in front of like trans autogynephilic professor. It's all real.
From what I understand, and this is where the other ostensible slight connection that I have to this. So this is part of the education and counseling psychology department at Santa Clara University. So my mom worked in that administrative office before I went to school there. And I sent my mom this article, and I was like, things have changed a little bit since we left, huh, Mom? And she goes, oh my God, this is great. Like, and it was a requirement for like, so like, this has totally been happening after she left.
It all went downhill since your mom left.
Exactly. And I texted her, I was like, stop donating money to them. And she goes, oh, I stopped years ago. So I was like, okay, good. Thank you. You're a good mom.
Yeah.
So I'll continue on with this.
No one should donate any money to any higher institution ever again.
Yeah.
Like how much did we pay to go to these schools? And like, I can't imagine ever donating money to any of the schools I went from. Now, I thought like I would consider making like a scholarship that would go towards students specifically.
Yeah.
Like that's fine. I got help with those things too. So I would, repay it that way. But I would never just give my money so that some gender studies administrator can so that would go into the pockets of people running some like quasi Title IX Kafka-esque trial. like I couldn't imagine doing that, but a lot of people do. Whenever you see those, an article always comes out once in a while just to some like red meat to the base. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but like red meat to the base will be like, this couple makes $400,000, was living paycheck to paycheck. Whenever you see that, and they show the breakdown of what like their expenses are, it'd always be like $1,200 a month to the University of Michigan or something like that. Stop doing it.
Yeah. I again requested to complete the course remotely. I was told no, I could drop the course or be dropped. Ms. Watson granted a one-time exception, take the W for withdrawal, not win, pay out of pocket for a continuing education course to fulfill licensure requirements, and enroll in an extra 3 units at Santa Clara to be eligible to graduate. When I asked for a tuition refund, she called my request astonishing. My objections weren't treated as signs of a systemic issue, but as a personal grievance to be managed quietly. Ms. Watson didn't respond to a request for comment from my editor at the Journal. Mr. Way referred to the editor's inquiry to a university spokeswoman who offered no comment on the record. Geez, just like bureaucracy nonstop, like all the way down the line.
I'm sorry, this makes me want Trump and the government to just fucking destroy this school. Like, I know you're all like, I have no sympathy for this shit. This oh, well, you can pay more money to get what you already thought you were getting with our, I'm assuming, very expensive tuition, right? It's a private school.
Yep.
Like, astonishing that you would ask for a like the lack of oversight, because this shit goes to the top. Like this isn't just a couple. Like, I feel like back in the day, it used to be like a few zany, really uber Marxist professors, but like at the top, they were normal. They're relatively normal. They still had a donor base that was moderate to conservative. And, like there was enough diversity there, like real diversity of thought, that it wouldn't be like the craziness was contained. But now it's like that shit goes to the top, because those people who were those professors, now they're the administrators and they're running the asylum. And like, it makes me just want to fucking destroy them.
Yeah.
But like, no, I want endowments tax so badly.
Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. I mean, it's funny because like, I'll be honest, like I had a great time at Santa Clara University, and not just like the usual, all the parties. And it's like, I had some awesome professors. I had a very small music. They had a very small music department, but it was cool because we all knew each other, and all the professors were awesome, and a lot of jamming, and so just a lot of fond memories of it. And then like, within a few years, I was kind of like, man, fuck SEU, I can barely find a job, and blah blah blah. And so I went through this period where I was like, fuck college, didn't help me at all.
Graduate, yeah.
And then in recent years, I was kind of like, like looking at the current state of universities, I'm glad that I had the experience that I had, and like I'm not a super religious guy, but I was like, like there are aspects of the Jesuit tradition that I genuinely admire. So I was like, I consider myself pretty lucky having gone there. I have a softer view of my experience there, but this just like set me back 10 steps. Fuck SAU, man.
And what's fun, I'm the same way. Like, I had a fantastic experience at my school.
Mhm.
You met like all of my friends at my wedding that you met, besides like a handful, like a couple of brother, like from my childhood. I had one law school friend there. Like besides that, all of my friends are college friends. And I also had wonderful professors, like a lot. I had some shitty ones too, I'll say. But I had some great professors. I learned a ton. I learned about things that like, yeah, you can kind of make fun of, like, oh, like history of film, like Japanese film class, but like, you know, that shit, I'm still watching those movies in my 30s. And that is a source of, is that gonna help you get a job? No, but like classic Japanese film, like that's a thing that I've taken with me that like gives me, you know, comfort and enjoyment and fulfillment. And you know, and again, that's an exception, but like I learned a ton. I studied abroad, which made me want to travel more. And then I lived in Spain and like all this stuff that like, I agree. I personally had a fantastic relationship and I would love to donate to the school, but I don't trust that that's not going to go into some craziness like this to enable this shit. If I knew it would go to like help my professors that I loved, you know, whatever, give the students better experiences, great. But like, I just don't believe that it's like, I feel sick to my stomach enabling something like this. And I'm now, there have been no stories coming out of Ursinus College where I went like this. Like it's a significantly smaller school than this. I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of craziness is going on.
No, and it's crazy because, you know, it's like getting back to the Jesuit thing, like, you know, but you know, I also wonder if they're slightly more susceptible because I mean, like it seemed like the Society of Jesus was somewhat more, I don't want to say progressive necessarily, but a little more modern. Like they were a little more like, you know, like we champion like a multidisciplinary education and going out, and so it just seemed there's something about, you know, Jesuits that seemed a little more forward thinking, I guess.
Well, yeah, like if you look at a lot of like the oldest Catholic school in the U.S., Georgetown, like they're Jesuit. So like the Jesuit, they were about education. That was one of their things. It was like we want to educate people. And I don't know if it's so much a Jesuit thing as an education thing. So there happen to be a lot of Jesuit schools. Then they definitely are more like socially liberal. Like I've heard Catholics argue about this stuff, right? Like oh, those pesky Jesuits. Yeah. Look at our first Jesuit Pope. First only Jesuit Pope was Pope Francis. Like definitely different. Now of course, you know, he it's all relative there, but he would also say there's too much faggotry in the church when my would be like, oh, he's so progressive. I'm like, oh, you know, but yeah, so I think you're right. They were like more susceptible to this stuff. But when you're reading here, she said that the priest, the head, like
he was shocked by it.
Like, okay, then what?
Right. Yeah, I don't know how the power structure works there.
I would hope they have a lot of power.
you expect, but I mean, you know, like with the crits being obsessed with power and dismantling power, I don't know how they. But it's funny. So a few years back when I was hanging out with Alma, this is when she lived in LA, and she was talking about how she was kind of like looking into different sects, sects of Catholicism. Sure, and she hadn't gotten married, so she was kind of like, you know, shopping around, I guess. And then I was like, you know, I'm not religious, but if I was, if they made it mandatory, like I'd probably be Jesuit. Like they're kind of like the more like, she goes, yeah, they're kind of like the hippies of the Catholics. They seem a little more like philosophical, just sort of like education and just thinking, and, you know, but this, you know, I'm not blaming all Jesuits, but I am kind of like, you know, if it was going to impact any Catholic sect, it would probably have been the Jesuits. That would probably be more lenient on this.
Yeah, they're definitely the most liberal of the Catholics, which again, I think, like, I know that where I went to law school in Loyola, like in New Orleans, so it's a very Catholic area, like the Jesuit school, Loyola lawyers, and one of the judges, Skelly Wright, like he, like a graduate of Loyola, like they had a big part in desegregation, which was like really tough there. Like this was New Orleans was like the hub of slavery. Now, of course, this is much later. Like this was a very, and like Louisiana, you know, so they did play, I think, a very positive role in those things. The problem is that what happens is these group, you know, everyone, especially boomers, like they love to believe that they're still in the 60s, where it's like, oh, well, the issue of the day is just like the civil rights movement. It's just like Stonewall. So it's like, no. They're like, things change. There are different dynamics. There's different contexts. Like, not everything is the same as the civil rights movement, which I'm sure you weren't even fucking at, by the way. Like, I'm sure you weren't even there or doing any of that shit or putting yourself in any type of danger, taking credit for that. I do think that's a lot of boomers, but like, they love to kind of graft onto that, onto like, you know, and that's why you see so many of them at these, where like, they're not even understanding. They don't understand that the context of the details of it. It's just like, oh, well, I need to be on the right side of history, just like I will. Or maybe they weren't even. Maybe it was like their parents or their older siblings were back then, because that's what's more important to them than about, like, you know, the cost of living or having new housing built in their neighborhood or something like that.
Right. So getting back to the article here. When I went public anonymously on Substack, I realized I had stumbled onto something larger. The entire field of educating therapy has been hollowed out and filled in with critical theory. Therapists are no longer trained to be neutral. They're trained to be agents of political change. Concepts like modesty, concepts like modesty and marital privacy aren't merely treated as optional or even dismissed. They're seen as oppressive norms to be actively combated. That annoys me. That's the sort of like, you know, when the concept of like sex positivity kind of popped up, you know, like probably 10 years ago or so, or at least for my memory. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. You know, we can all lighten up about sex, sure. But now it's gotten to the point where it's like, you know, if you aren't, you know, talking openly about your sex life in the office, then you're a prude. Like, there's like this sort of like reversal of like, I don't know. It's
the therapist is like, all right, like a marriage counselor therapist would be like, all right, show me your favorite positions and we'll act this out. And then like, they're joining. It's like, I'm just going to slide in here. I'm telling you, this is all just about getting off. Like, it's as base as that. It's just these therapists are getting off about people's like most intimate details.
And the husband's just like, I'm just here because my wife's, she's just really bad with her checkbook. So like,
I just want her to stop women be shopping. Like,
oh man. In multicultural counseling, we were told that objective, rational, linear thinking, delayed gratification, and making a plan for the future are traits of white culture. This is exactly what we saw with the Smithsonian thing.
The dumbest fucking thing ever. These are like the most important traits of like a healthy relationship and building wealth and like stability and comfort. And dude, I'm gonna be honest, like, I can't think of a worse place in America than like a graduate therapy course at a liberal arts college in California. Like, this sounds like my hell. Like, if hell is real, which I believe it is, and it's personalized, like, this is my hell. Like, I need to live my life so I don't end up in this class.
Your hell is just like you're in a sensitivity training graduates, and you're surrounded by a bunch of like yoga doing vegans and like
I don't even know if it's that. Like, yoga doing vegans, it'd be like too tired to like be aggressive. It's more of like this kind of shit. There's like very officious sexual like tearing down of all cultural norms type thing, where you're not even connecting. It's like you can't. It's kind of like how I don't bother with the abortion argument with a lot of people, and I don't really take a particular side in it.
Sure.
But it's when you have one side, and again, maybe these are the extremes, but I think less so now, that believes, you know, it's a fetus and you can have an abortion up until birth, and then one side thinking that it's life at conception. Like, there's no point. Like, you're not going to find common ground.
Right.
So that's where I am with this. Like, if you think that delayed gratification and planning for the future are traits of white culture, like, we're not gonna even come to like defining terms. Like we're just not gonna have a productive conversation or debate or whatever it is.
Yeah. I was required to preface mock therapy sessions by naming my whiteness and warning that I might misread clients because of my race. Ben, like, dude, I know you're going through a lot of stuff right now. I'm willing to listen to you, buddy, but my Mexicanness might get in the way of your half Italianness. So I'm just giving you a heads up about that right now. What a stupid thing to preface a conversation like that. In human sexuality, we were taught that children with 6 months of gender distress should be affirmed in their belief that they are of the opposite sex, without deeper assessment, even when trauma or autism was present. These ideas are being promoted by the field's top bodies: the American Psychological Association, American Counseling Association, and Council for Accreditation. Accreditation of counseling and related educational programs have adopted standards grounded in critical theory. Therapists influence decisions about gender transition, family custody, school discipline, and even criminal sentencing. When clinicians are trained to see everything through an ideological lens rather than with ethical neutrality, the consequences extend far beyond the therapy room. I'm 26, newly married, mother of a 1-year-old girl, and a few credits from graduating. I pursued every institutional channel available. I even sought short-term therapy through campus mental health services, which I was denied. A staff psychologist told me that my department has a history of demanding intimate self-disclosure from students, a practice he regards as unethical. Speaking up comes with risk, but in a field where dissent is discouraged and students are coerced, I've chosen to say no more.
Good for her.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I was surprised to see this published in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
I thought they would just be like talking about Trump's tariffs or something, and they wouldn't have time for this kind of thing. But this makes me like very angry. Like I haven't really like this feels like a throwback, like when we first started the podcast, and it makes me angry that this is still going on.
Yeah.
This isn't even just like you had a bad, because I mean, I guess someone could, let's say we could steelman this and say like, oh, like you're trying to cancel stuff and you're like censor something that you find objectionable, but what's the difference between that and a Tarantino movie where they're saying the N-word or the violence or something? You could steelman that argument.
Sure.
I don't buy it, because one, this is like personal.
Right.
This isn't just like, oh, I had to look at some dumb chart, which again I think is wrong.
Right.
Or like sit through some stupid training that's a waste of everyone's time and actually causes more harm than good. Like, no, this like you have to get up in front of the class. And like, isn't that a thing now? She's 26, so
Yeah.
is she a millennial or like a older Gen?
I don't think so. I think she's I guess she
older. It's probably an older end of Gen Z then.
Yeah, I
right.
think so. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anyone younger than me. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But like I thought they have trouble just like speaking publicly. Now I have to talk about your vagina, or your penis in front of a class. Like, and this is again, I don't see this serving any. So I'm a lawyer, if you didn't know, and I practice domestic violence law, for instance. Like, do I have to be like do I have to share any would I have to share about my experiences with domestic violence?
Right.
Have I ever do I have to go watch a bunch of videos of women being beaten, or read pages of text messages of threats of assault or revenge porn?
Yeah.
I've had to hold up, as evidence. I've had to deal with some pretty disgusting stuff.
Sure.
I'll leave out some details, but some really disturbing things in a courtroom, in a public courtroom.
Yeah.
And that's that comes with the job, but that doesn't mean that I had to, I don't even know how to compare them exactly, but that doesn't mean that I would have to share with my colleagues about my personal experiences with something that I might deal with a client.
Right. Exactly.
That doesn't make it. That's unprofessional.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. I do think they're not a one-to-one, but a lawyer and a therapist, there's still privilege there.
Yep.
Right. They're still, still professional, still dealing with sometimes people at their lowest.
Right.
And I can't imagine how a training where and again, I haven't had to do any of this. My job is very good with that, but I can't imagine how that would benefit my clients that I went and I'm exposed to enough examples of violence, real shit, just from doing my job.
Right.
So
a couple things. You're an adult, so it's presumably you would have the emotional fortitude to be able to handle that. And also, I'm sure that you knew going in that you're probably going to experience these types of cases in real life. And also, like, I wouldn't even blame somebody if, like, there are certain things that I don't feel comfortable with. That's fine. I like, and like it even says in the article, it's like, when you're out in the professional field, like, you have, the ability to say, I'm sorry, this is outside of my specialty. I'm not gonna be able to help you, but I can recommend you to someone who does specialize in this sort of thing. Right.
Yeah.
So why, and also just like BDSM, and it's not like it was presented as like, oh, sometimes in families, there you might encounter someone who is the victim of sexual abuse, but like, why would watching BDSM videos prepare you for that? Like,
that's my point. Like, I could totally see, don't get me wrong, I could totally see where they would have to maybe have like some actors come in and act like maybe a chronic masturbator or something. Like, that is totally foreseeable, and maybe you do have to deal with that. And if you can't handle something like that, maybe you're not in the right line of work. And I don't know if like all these therapists go into the same exact thing. Like, I'm sure there are different degrees. Ones who are maybe more like criminally insane type people. Some are more who are just like housewives who are on too many pills. There's a big chasm in between there. But like, that is one thing. And if students like, I can't handle that, then maybe you are in the wrong line of work. You can't handle someone talking about how they have violent like sexual fantasies. That's fine. But that's not what's going on here at all. Right. This is just getting these students to watch this guy's Pornhub history. Right? Like, that is not part of that should not be a part of a higher education in the United States.
Yeah. And it cracks me up that this is coming from the crowd that constantly goes on and on about how Republican politicians are fascists. And yet they're the ones culturally they're creating like this whole new set of rules. And if you disagree with them, or if you're uncomfortable with them, then the problem is you. And it's like,
if we were a fascist country, this wouldn't happen.
Right. Exactly.
In fact, that'd be one of the benefits of it. I've like, sometimes I'm like, fuck it. Let's just try real fascism once.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's try it out. And see, and then we see like, okay, that's not for us, but let's try it out, because this shit would end and this shit would not come back. Like, again, and I mean fascism as in like I think people always equate fascism with Nazism. No, those are very different things. Like, Nazism is a type of fascism that incorporated much more racism and obviously anti-Semitism into it. But there are many other types of fascism that's just much more of like, which again, I would argue we even already fucking have. I know I'm going on another tangent here about it's just the combination of government and corporations with like a powerful military, and it's much more about order, which when you look at the higher education and the cities in a state like California, maybe they could use a little bit of it.
Yeah. No. But yeah, it pisses me off so much that they just invented all these new rules, and everyone's supposed to be hip to them overnight. That shit pisses me off.
Well,
my school.
This is your school sucks, Joe.
I know. And I was just coming over the last few years. I was coming around, like, I shouldn't be so.
I'll go. I should go visit my old profs. Drive by the music department, and it's smothered with a pride flag. Not even a pride flag, an intersectional flag.
Yeah. Well,
and they're like, "Show us your genitals."
Yeah, exactly. But here's a weird thing right here. The towards the end of the article, a staff psychologist told me that my department has a history of demanding intimate self-disclosure from students, a practice he regards as unethical. So it's like, at what point was somebody going to speak up? Like, this has been going on for a long time.
Who's running that department?
No.
And have them hauled in front of whatever sort of board or any
tribunal.
Whatever that is. Is that Watson? Was that Watson person?
Yeah.
I don't know. Haul them all in. I don't even care. I don't even care anymore.
Yeah.
Fascist Ben. I'm kidding, by the way, about real fascism. I know there's a lot of bad parts to it, but I've drifted. I will say, as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate order. Basically, I was taught a long time ago, and this might be simplistic, that that American politics is a constant push-pull between order and freedom, right? And if you had asked me not even that long ago, I would think I'm much more on the freedom side. When it came to things like legal gambling and drugs and legalizing drugs and all this other stuff, I was much more of the like libertarian side, whether that's libertarian right or left.
Yeah.
I've totally flipped. I'm much more on the order side.
Yeah.
You start seeing just the breakdown of things, and at the same time, the cost. When you see like the breakdown as like the literal breakdowns and like things stop working,
Yep.
and chaos, and the cost, but like life is still expensive. You just really start to be like, you know what? I would just take more order if it's going to be like this anyway.
Yeah.
And I would rather focus on a handful of issues. Like that's why I'm pretty like a lot more outspoken about immigration, because there's like just disorder, and I want order. And crime, it's like, again, it's an order thing, like justice and accountability. And I'm much more just focused on that stuff than be like, I don't give a fuck if you want to, like I shouldn't say I don't give a fuck, because I do care, but like I'm not going to go to bat for, even necessarily support, like, oh, you can gamble on your couch now and you can ruin your, by the way, no one talks about that, how much that has ruined relationships. And I think all of this stuff, what I'm starting to see the patterns here, and then we can move on, is that when the guardrails start breaking down, like it keeps getting pushed, whether that's about gender studies stuff or it's about gambling. It's like, yeah, I don't personally gamble, and I live right near Atlantic City and I work in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
But I'm fine. Like, I like casinos and I'm fine that they exist, but like you had to go there to do it.
Yeah.
Now you can just gamble away on your couch.
Yeah.
Or like doing drugs. It was like, I was fine with like, yeah, you shouldn't get in trouble if you're like doing drugs in your house and you can handle it. But it's like, no, you shouldn't be shooting up on the street.
Yeah.
Or like that sort of stuff. That's just like ruining culture, like ruining public spaces.
Yeah. No, I'm largely with you on that. Somewhat related to this, and this is brief. Are you familiar with Rob Henderson? You follow him at all?
Yeah, I do actually. I want to read his. I want to read his book.
Yeah, he's a good thinker. So he just tweeted this today, so it's somewhat related to this. He tweeted an excerpt here from a publication. It doesn't say where, but I trust him. Anyway. It's from the Chronicle. Anyway, so a new report in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that newly licensed clinicians from top-ranked medical institutions were half as likely to initially practice in socioeconomically deprived areas as graduates from other medical institutions. Specialists were also less likely to practice in deprived areas compared with primary care clinicians. Our profession appears to confront a growing paradox. Young physicians trained at elite schools are least likely to care for patients in the places they are most needed and could do the most good. At the same time, they are the most apt to promote vague goals of social justice as a professional duty. In so doing, they are helping neither patients nor the professions. It's like, does you know, like I'm sure Best here, Naomi Best probably went in with the best intentions. She probably really wants to help people, right? But like, you know, the BDSM videos and stuff, like that's not going to make her want to like help care for poor people. That's not going to like go to like impoverished neighborhoods and help.
I think I think what it is, I think a lot, there's this glut of degrees, right? Like we had educational inflation, and a lot of liberal, left-wing, progressive leaning people didn't know what they wanted to do. They didn't have a spot in the open marketplace.
Yeah.
So they went into things like that, like higher degree, right? This is not a coincidence that the vast majority of people with higher degrees have more left-wing views.
Yep.
It's kind of like this self-fulfilling prophecy type thing, this mill of people, and then they become the professors and administrators and the NGO complex and all of this. Like, so I don't think it's necessarily they want to become therapists. They want to do social justice, and therapy is one avenue for them to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Again, I don't know. I have no science to back that up. This is just a feeling. This is vibes.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some truth to that. I mean, you know, it seems like a very yet another way for people, particularly young people, to get into slacktivism, to perform slacktivism, where it's like, oh, it seems like I'm doing the right thing, but I'm actually not.
Yeah.
So this pisses me off.
Yeah, this sucks. This kind of put me in a bad mood, Joe. I was feeling so good that this stuff is gone, and it's just not. and it probably never will be unless there's like serious consequences. That's why, again, I say like I'm okay with an overcorrection in this sense. Like I'm okay with that. This shit needs to stop. Like we need to, like with doctors. I mean, again, dude, why? I'm sorry. I'm gonna be blunt. Why do you live in LA? Like why?
Joe
Yes,
Garza?
yes. Why do you live in Los Angeles? Like, did you see the issues with UCLA? How there are like public announcements, like PSAs, some anonymous that like the doctors graduating from UCLA are just not qualified to be doctors, but they got in for DEI issues. Again, this is not like me putting pieces here. This is like public service announcements saying like these are not people who should be practicing medicine.
Oh, damn.
Like, and I don't want you going to some hospital and you're getting treated by someone who just like shouldn't be a doctor. But UCLA didn't want to make doctors. They wanted to like fight white supremacy.
Yeah.
Like that shit scare, like that needs to stop.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if doctors are 100% like trans Caribbean or they're 100% straight white men. I don't give a shit. I want us to have the best doctors.
Yeah.
Like I just don't care. And that is like, that's so crazy to me that these schools, like, again, this isn't like Redwood University or Reed College in Oregon, this is UCLA.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an episode. That's a top for another episode. You want to do not shed selections. You want to do reckless wreck? Yeah. Because we went way longer on that. We'll do this other topic another time. I feel like it's somewhat evergreen or recent. So go ahead. You can go first.
So there's a comedian / entertainer who I recently stumbled upon. His name is John Goblikon, or like so that's just like a persona. So he's a regular comedian. I forgot his real name. It's not important. Okay. But so he's this guy. He's based out of LA, and he's full on goblin. Like he's got like this very like elaborate goblin makeup, and he sings for a death metal band called Necro Goblikon, I think. I don't even like the music, but he is fucking hilarious.
Wait, he's a comedian and a singer?
Yeah.
Does he do them at the same time?
Sometimes I've only seen clips, but like, he'll be up on stage and they'll sing, and then he'll do some little comedy bits in between.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So he's got a podcast where he mostly interviews, as far as I know, it looks like he only interviews comedians, and he's had some pretty big names on. But it's called Right Now. And but he's fully committed to the bit.
Does he do the podcast in the makeup?
In the makeup, yeah.
Wait, so it's like it looks. Sorry, I'm just trying to picture this.
Yeah.
It's not like he's wearing a mask.
If it is a mask, it's a very, very elaborate mask, but it's like big ears. He's got like long fingernails, and he's got like the contacts, like yellow contacts. So he's really spooky looking guy.
What's it called? Goblikon?
Goblikon. John Goblikon. And
okay, but take back everything I said about LA. This is cool.
This is one of the things where I'm like, John Goblikon.
Yeah, I see him.
That's him. But what's funny about him is that he's very like lighthearted, like very like giddy, and but he's fucking hilarious. There's a lot of like improv. There's a lot of like role playing. He'll bring up like random questions, but also like the interviews are actually pretty good. Like he actually gets some pretty cool.
Pretty you like the voice? I'm so
he's got this crazy voice. He just talks like this, right? Like he's got kind of a spooky voice, but he hams it up.
Goblikon.
I recommend his podcast
right now. All right, I'll check it out. This is very funny, actually. But it's funny is his band. Hold on, sorry.
Yeah,
his band. No one else is in makeup.
That's correct. Yeah.
It feels like it's something you just kind of like start doing one day. And the band's like, all right, like, because like it's not like Slipknot where they're all in the stuff,
right?
It's just him.
Yeah, I think it was kind of as a joke. He sings for them, but I think they have a main lead singer. He's also kind of like a hype man, because I've seen other videos of like live videos of them, and they have like an actual singer, like a full on band, but then he's just kind of like dancing around. And then sometimes he'll sing, or he'll like do some.
I like that he wears a suit, but like
he wears a full suit. like a business suit,
like a tie and shirt. Yeah, it's funny.
But he's got like
check this out.
Very zany sense of humor. He's also like a very sweet, lighthearted guy, or the character, which is funny, which really belies like the spooky thing. But But yeah, check it. I recommend his first episode. I think it was with Andrew Santino. Santino's a very funny guy, but it's funny because Santino's in on the joke too. Like he treats him like he's talking to a real goblin.
Yeah. His first episode was Andrew Santino.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I saw Bobby Lee was on there too. All right.
Yeah, Bobby Lee's on. I'll
check it out.
Yeah. But anyway, he just cracks me up. So I've just been like, there are a lot of inside jokes. Like he does this thing where, because he's got such a raspy voice. And like obviously he can't do other voices, but like sometimes comedians like who do impersonations, they'll ask him like, hey, so do you have impressions at all? And then he goes, well, I can do an impression of Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit. Ask me if I can do an impression of Fred Durst. I'm like, okay, can you do an impression of Fred Durst? And he'd be like, okay, yeah. And like that's And another thing too is that like he'll in the middle of a conversation, he'll do this several times in an episode. He'd be like, okay, yeah, good thing we're not recording. Anyway, let's do this. Start recording. So,
all right, I'll check this out. This sounds good.
Yeah, I think you get a kick out of it. But yeah, John Goblikon specifically.
I like people who can like lean into a bit, which is also what's his name? The guy who did Dr. Phil.
Yeah, Adam Ray.
Like that's I really appreciate someone who can lean into a bit and
just go all out.
Yeah.
And,
all right, cool.
So yeah, that's my reckless
wreck. I approve of your reckless wreck.
Thank you.
I will wreck your reckless wreck. All right, mine is just a movie. Have you ever seen Down by Law?
I don't think so. No.
It's a Jim Jarmusch, and it's a black and white movie. Of course, you know I'm gonna kind of watch anything that takes place in New Orleans, which this does. But it also has Roberto Benigni is the most well-known actor. You know him, right? Yeah, Italian. So
Pinocchio, he played Pinocchio at some point.
Yeah, he did, but that movie's god awful. Like that's known for it. But he's a very, I would say God, please do not. So he did.
He won an Oscar for movies.
Life is Beautiful. Yeah. Yes, that's an incredible movie. Let's remember him for that, and not Pinocchio.
And his Oscar speech, his winning when he got up, and then because he's also like a very goofy, like eccentric guy. He got up there and he goes, "Thank you so much. I use up all my English for you." Like so he's got kind of a playful sense of humor. So.
Yeah, he's a great Italian actor. I really like John Laurie in it too. He's really good. It's just like it's this cool movie of kind of like people on the fringes of society in New Orleans. It's like a ex-DJ who's kind of like doing criminal activity for it looks like the mob. John Laurie's character is a pimp. Roberto Benigni's kind of like a huckster card guy, but and like they all and then they're in jail, like they're in prison. Jail. It's really weird. I guess like rights don't exist in this movie. But like you never see them go to court or anything. They're just kind of in jail for a lot of the movie, and then they break out. Like that's the story. It's basically they introduce the characters, they all get screwed, which is the thing. Like you know that right away. Like this isn't did they do it? Like they're not good guys, but they all got screwed.
Right.
And then so you're kind of rooting for them. They break out, and I won't give anything away. This movie's from 1986, but it's a black and white movie. It's really like kind of grungy, and it's like a lot of it takes place in a jail cell and in the swamp and like the bayou. And it's like a really good movie, great acting. You know, there's not too much action in it. This is just like a character-led movie. And I just thought it was great. And this like New Orleans that it's like really, really kind of dingiest and grimiest. Really like a cool scene. My criticism with the movie is that they introduce a lot of cool characters early, but then you never see them again, which I think sucks.
Right.
I was just surprised with that. But yeah, this is fairly short, I think. That's 107 minutes. But yeah, so Down by Law, cool if you're into like a kind of fringe society New Orleans movie with good acting. Like I recommend this one.
Interesting. I've only seen one Jarmusch movie. It's Ghost Dog: The Way of the Samurai. Have you seen that one?
No, I've not. In fact, Jarmusch, I recognize like his picture because he's like crazy. He almost has like what's his name?
It's got a little bit of like an Andy Warhol kind of look, like kind of like it's like
I would say it's kind of hair like fucking A.
Lynch.
Lynch, yeah, like a Lynchian type. I'm seeing what I've seen. I've seen Patterson, which takes place in Patterson, New Jersey.
Mm.
But and The Dead Don't Die. That movie sucked.
Mm.
That movie's not very good. It's a zombie movie. But besides that, I have Coffee and Cigarettes on my list also. I did not realize either of these were by Jim Jarmusch either.
Yeah.
I just added them because they sounded interesting. But
he always put me on just because the way he looked, just like it looks very artsy, snobby, always wearing sunglasses inside, indoor sort of thing. But and here's the thing: I watched Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai. But the thing is, I watched it with a group of friends, and we're just like drinking and shit. And then we also watched it like at 1.5 speed. And
really?
so yeah, so it was a weird little like habit that we had. Like we watched like like a very pretentious movie, but like watched it sped up, and actually so I didn't give the movie a fair shake. I will say it was funny seeing Forrest Whitaker, who's kind of heavyset, seeing him with like a samurai sword, being very so serious, is very goofy. It's even goofier when it's sped up. But I should give it another watch because it got good reviews. It won a lot of independent movie awards. So
just check out some of his other stuff. That's watch Down by Law, or it's good. And Patterson's good too. It's a
movie. It's a New Jersey movie. We get it.
Oh my god, I always blank with fucking actor names on this show. You know what I'm talking about? Kylo Ren.
Oh
god, damn it.
Adam Driver.
I don't know why I was thinking Adam Long or something. Yeah, Adam Driver. Yeah, he's a bus driver in Patterson. All right, fight the crits, everyone, because
please,
really,
seriously.
I feel like I was just saying that recently, but like we really got to do it. It's getting out of hand. Check out our Patreon, please.
Yeah. Follow, subscribe.
Check out the follow links. At a minimum. Like, subscribe, follow, share stuff. You know the drill.
Yeah. All right. Stay reckless.
Stay reckless. Fight the grit.